Yes.
Hey
Bring
guys. Hey guys, it's Maria Park. I'm from Approach the Nerd. This is my good friend Joe from Joe's Geek Show. Subscribe to his channel below. Our stream was scheduled for 10:40 p.m. tonight, but for some reason StreamYard decided it was coming on tomorrow morning, and I don't know what was going on with that, so I apologize. But we are here to talk about the wonderfulness that is the Fear Street Trilogy, inspired by R.L. Stein's book of the same name, or technically stories out of the book series for Fear Street, that graced the screens of our Netflix accounts. And if you haven't seen my non-spoiler reviews, I did post them in order: 1994, 1978, 1666. So they are already listed on the channel. So make sure you look at them if you don't want to be spoiled. But we are going to do a spoiler review, which is very appropriate because these movies were really good and really on crack, and I really wanted to talk about them, and I think enough time has passed for us to do that. So let's start with part one, which is 1994 part one, that premiered first on Netflix. So what was your opinion of that one?
I like the music.
I did like it. Well, I'm a 90s kid. Like, I went to high school in the 90s, so that all was like reminiscent for me. I felt young. But yeah, they had like Bush. I heard Bush. I heard who else? Garbage. One of my favorite bands in high school was Garbage. So
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, Iron Maiden was there. Like every 19 trope. I mean, very grungy. It was cool. It was cool. So very appropriate music wise, setting wise. They had things that were driving me crazy too. Like when you saw Josh on the internet and you heard that modem ringing, I'm like, that's a 14.4 modem. I'm like, it took forever for him to connect to the internet, and he was using AOL, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, but also remember, he was stealing AOL.
He was stealing AOL. Yep, he was. And the refresh rate, though, of the message board, if I have a complaint or nitpick so far, it was never that fast. He would type, and it would take forever to post in that chat. So I was like, yeah, that was a little sped up for our entertainment. But outside of that, yeah. I mean, things that were awesome. I love the prop.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, even from the start of the movie, it was very it was kind of interesting because when the movie first started, I was sitting there, I was like, good God, I feel like I'm watching the next Scream movie.
It did have really, yeah, even the costume.
It was very 90s in that approach. And it also took me a minute to realize, oh wait, that's the girl from Stranger Things, the last season.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's the actress, yeah.
Yeah, they were in all, because they kept putting characters in all three, and sometimes in different roles. So yeah, but yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, that whole scene was effed up. Like her in the mall asking her friend Ryan for a ride home, and him just up and kill. He was so quiet. How he methodically killed all these other people before he got to her. I'm like, how did she not hear it? Because she wasn't listening to music. She was putting the books up. How did none of them scream or run by her at any time, in that, or they were being murdered? Because
bookstores are really quiet. There's like a rule of thumb that the bookstores are always quiet. Like no sounds allowed to pass the threshold.
That's so full of crap. You know it.
I don't know. I mean, well, you got to give it up. I mean, the movies obviously aren't perfect. There's definitely going to be flaws within them,
Yeah.
But that's just horror movies in general. That's just one of the tropes. You could be 3 feet away from somebody getting murdered, and you're not going to hear it. I mean, heck, what was it in the movie Urban Legend? Like you had the main chick, her roommate right next to her is getting killed, and she's just like, "Would you turn it down a little bit and check go sleep, man?"
Well, I thought that she thought they were having sex, and that's why.
Yeah, that was.
Now, and to be fair, her roommate had a history of doing that all the time. I'd probably been like, really, But I get what you're saying. But I just thought that was interesting that none of the staff that worked at the mall after hours, were like.
I just call it horror. I call it horror trope number one.
Yeah,
we gotta have some bodies, and we gotta make sure this chick gets killed in the opening. That's how the horror movie tropes that's how they work here. We got to make sure this chick is dead by the opening and stuff. I felt really bad for her too. I was like, for a second, I was like, is she gonna make it? Oh wait, no. Horror movie logic. She
No,
ain't
that
gonna make
and
it.
see, that was so weird too, because I felt like part one of 1994 did not have the most gore out of all three of these movies. This had the least amount of gore.
Least amount of
Except for
gore,
one scene.
yes, but had the most creative kill out of all three films.
Yeah, this one had a very creative kill. I'll give you that. And we'll get to that one in a second because I know exactly who you're talking about. But the main characters of this one, there's Dina Johnson. She is from Shadyside. The town of Shadyside is cursed because of reasons we'll get into in a minute. And there's another town called Sunnyvale. The names are amazing. The naming in this is amazing because everything is basically opposite of what it actually is. So basically, Sunnyvale, by appearance, is this town that's just prosperous. Everybody is rich or are very successful. There's no crime, it seems. Everything is perfect in Sunnyvale. And then
nothing bad ever happens in Sunnyvale.
Happens in Sunnyvale.
That's the key.
Yep, it's Shadyside is shady, basically. And there's like people that just for some reason turn into murderers and kill people. And the town is aware of this. The town is aware that it is cursed, even though some people think it's an urban myth. The consistency of murders is just across the board in this movie. I mean, every news channel or like every newscast, somebody's flipping out and killing people. So it's like this is the opening scene was just the latest murder in this town, and I thought that was really interesting. But so Dina is from Shadyside. She is mourning the loss of her girlfriend who has moved to Sunnyvale. And they are in the 90s. This is a big thing. As a queer woman, it's a big thing to come out in the 90s because that's something that you didn't really see a lot of in the 90s. Sam, her girlfriend, just moved to Sunnyvale for a better life with her. I want to say that was her stepmother. Her stepmother or mother figure.
She said it was her stepmother because her parents got divorced.
Okay.
And I'm assuming if that's the case, parents got divorced, dad got remarried, and she decided to go live
with the stepmother. The stepmother
with them because
like,
they're living in Sunnyvale. Life is a little better there. Well, a lot better, I should say.
I did not like the stepmother. She was a biatch.
Oh my god! I was actually
horrible.
she was such a missed opportunity to kill off.
She really was. She really and we don't want to wish for people's deaths, but sometimes in horror movies we just have that luxury, and she was definitely on the list. All right, so we had Dina and Sam, and now we have Josh, who is Dina's brother, who is obsessed with everything horror and obsessed with everything Shadyside. He's like the encyclopedia of this town, of all the murders, of everything. So anything you want to know about, Shadyside and murders there, he is 100% the dictionary on. And he goes to like this like chat where they talk about all the murders and stuff, conspiracy chat online through AOL. And then we have Kate and Simon. Kate and Simon are two friends that go to school with Dina. Kate is like this cheerleader who's a straight A student, almost perfect, wants to get out of Shadyside, but on the side she just kind of does, she kind of sells drugs. I'm like, and then Simon is a kid who kind of helps Kate out in terms of selling drugs, has an aversion to wearing shirts and throughout this movie sometimes, works at a grocery store to support his family, and is a little bit of the comic relief / flirt, I guess, of the movie. And then we have Nick Good, who is Sheriff Good, and his name is very interesting because it is the opposite of what the hell he actually is. But we don't know this at this point because by this point, it kind of looks like, he's just a concerned sheriff who basically wants good for the community, whether it be Sunnyvale or Shadyside. And he's almost like he runs the line, like he's the ambassador between the two towns.
Sort of setting them up as the Deputy Dewey of the of this trilogy.
Yeah. And then we have a history. The curse is basically, there was a girl named Sarah Fear who's supposed to be a witch, and she was hung for being a witch, and she put a curse on Shadyside, and that is why everyone basically has bad luck. The town is crap, and eventually people try to kill each other, or become killers, should I say. So one day after a game, the team, our Shadyside team, are riding home on the bus. Dina's in the band, and so her ex-girlfriend Sam's riding with her new boyfriend and his friends, and they start throwing stuff at the bus. Well, Dina gets mad, and so they take, I think it's a cooler or something. They open the back door and they throw it at the car, and it causes them to wreck. Well, Samantha ends up seeing Sarah Fier's image on the ground. So, of course, throughout this movie, we're thinking, oh, anybody that sees Sarah Fier, you're going to die. So it's like the whole Ring thing, except without watching the videotape, is basically seeing her grave and seeing an image of her or where she's buried, basically. So the entire movie, they're trying to figure out how to stop Sarah Fier. They want to, I think they even went so far as I don't know. I don't think they did that to that point. Is this when they started talking about reuniting the hand and the body? I don't remember if they got to that point in 1994.
Actually, we just watched this one again last night because my wife and I can't seem to get enough of this trilogy. We enjoy watching it. They do bring up about when they're in the back in the basement of Dina and Josh's place, that they're talking about, oh well, why didn't or it was in the back of the ambulance or so. They were talking about why putting the bones to rest didn't work, and they're like, oh, it's got to be the hand.
Okay. I knew there was something that I don't think they came up early in the movie, but yeah, I think probably near.
It was like midway to like almost a third of the way through.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. So they were basically trying to figure out how to stop Sarah Fier, and every killer that Sarah Fier they thought had, basically, I guess, brought back or are infected with this disease. This is like a disease, I guess is what you're calling it. And basically made into a killer, and they're all dead. They're all ghosts. We're coming back to find the person whose blood spilled near Sarah Fier's grave. And Sarah Fier, Samantha, actually was her blood that they were hunting. So they were hunting her. And as long as you weren't near this woman, you were fine. That's basically what you got out of this. But the interesting thing is that we learned is that it actually was not Sarah Fier. Now, before we get to that, I'm going to have Joe talk about one of the grossest, death scenes that happens in this movie.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get down to this. Okay. So you've got all these characters. We're about right towards the end of the movie. We're at the point where it was already decided that all right, to get over this whole thing, Sam's got to die. They're gonna try to bring her back, but Sam's got to die. So of course, we finally reached that point. Everyone's gonna be, running offense, trying to protect, Sam and Dina while Dina kills Sam. And I will say, like, first thing after rewatching that, I will say, goddamn, Sam can hold her breath a damn long time.
She can.
While getting drowned. I'm sitting there counting the minutes, and I'm like, I think you passed the amount of minutes it would take to drown somebody, but all right, cool. While this is happening, and first off, I want to get to a point. So it really does get to a point where where the movie's almost trying to convince you that all these characters are going to live. And then in the last, like I said, within the last 20 minutes of the movie is when they're just starting, all right, we're just going to start axing people off.
Yeah.
Her name's escaping me right now.
Her name is Kate.
Kate, yes, thank you. So Kate is running from Skull Mask, the killer from the opening of the film, and he finds her. They start struggling. It looks like she might get away. She hits him with a pan. He stabs her, but it's just like, all right, she could still kind of fight. But then it comes probably, actually, I'm not going to say probably. For me, the best kill in the entire trilogy. He sends her head through a fucking bread slicer, and it is bloody, gruesome, and glorious.
And it's literally graphic. It was a graphic. I didn't think they were going to show it. I thought they were going to show her going, and they were going to cut away like they do in so many movies. No, you literally saw her going through it. I was like,
it's going through, which I thought was interesting. One of the most interesting aspects about this trilogy as a whole, too, is the fact that although this is rated R, clearly made for older audiences and adults, to me, it looks like it's shot and feels like an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark or something where it's...
Yeah, it does.
It's weird because it seems to be shot and more made for kids.
It looked like an episode of Goosebumps, like an R.L. Stine Goosebumps episode, until we got to this part. And then I was like,
bright and colorful and stuff like that. It definitely, color comes up a lot across this film trilogy, which, like I said, the writing, the lighting, and the cinematography is top notch. I really like the way these movies look, which is why, again, because it was R.L. Stine, and whatnot. I thought these were going to be a slightly more kid friendly, like maybe more of the Y7 territory. So when I see the blood and the cursing coming about, and especially after the bread slicer, I'm like, holy shit, okay, this it's that kind of movie. All right, that's cool. That's cool.
I was like, oh, it's getting real. It got real very quickly. Like, I'm not saying the opening scene wasn't bad, because I mean, it was your classic stab, teen slicer type movie. But man, like that,
Yes,
like, and I will say this: there were elements of Scream at the beginning, but also if you've ever seen this movie, what's it called? When a Stranger Calls. There's a lot of elements of A Stranger Call, the whole mystery of her being on the phone, and then the whole phone situation going weird, and her going and trying to figure out who's in the building. That is a very When a Stranger Calls horror like build to me as well. The way they shot that, the way she was just walking through, and then of course the Scream elements.
Like all these movies are paying homages to like different eras in horror.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But yeah, the bread slicer thing, I think was like, and then when she died, I think Simon died like literally right behind her. And I was like, oh, they are not.
Yeah, it was almost immediately after. You didn't have a chance to recover from her death before, Josh and Simon come running down the aisles and they're looking like, oh, dang, that sucks. And then splat the axe in the head. And I'm like, it comes out of nowhere. You're not prepared for it. And I'm like, okay, that's why these characters live so long throughout the movie. Because in your typical teen slasher and whatnot, some of these characters probably would have died a little bit before the finale. But they kept the core characters right up until the end just to axe off two characters that I honestly thought might have lived at least up until the third film.
Yeah. And what's so messed up about it is prior to them dying, they all had agreed to kick Sam out except for Dina, because they're like, they're after her. It's the classic trope that happens in horror movies. Oh, they just want her. So if she goes out there, they'll follow her and then we can go home. And everyone's like, yeah, kick her ass out. And I'm like, oh. So the two characters that were the most on board, like Simon was holding Dina back. To be fair, her brother Josh was kind of sitting there too. He didn't really fight for her, and Kate was like making her go outside. Those are the two that died. And I thought,
yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta imagine, they just tried to freaking explode these guys. I mean, they burnt them crisp to the ground. They were splattered all over the place. There was nothing left, and they pulled themselves together. At that point, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I did wonder what happened if you cross state lines into Sunnyvale. Or not state lines. Go over to the next town. Would it follow you to Sunnyvale?
I would think it would.
I don't know. I felt like everybody was cursed in Shadyside, so therefore they couldn't go to Sunnyvale because that's where the deal was. The deal for that place was made. Yeah,
but then when you look at the third film and in the context of like the poem itself, I'll follow you until you're dead. It's like, I will be your curse kind of thing. Sort of like that. I think there's an implication that.
No, I do know that it would leave. Like if they went to another country or whatever, I do think that they would follow them there. I just wondered if Sunnyvale was off limits because.
Yeah, I think even though we didn't really get to see it, I think it would.
And the only reason I'm saying, and I don't want to jump ahead, but there's something that happens at the end of 1666, or technically 1994 part 2, that made me think this way, but I'll get to that in a second. All right. So what we learned from the end of this movie is they drowned the hell out of Sam, which again took a long time. As somebody whose mother was a nurse, and I'm very up on anything medical with my medical conditions, I was very impressed at the amount of EpiPens they injected into her heart, and that she did not have brain damage, because that is what happens when you overdose on adrenaline through an EpiPen. Your brain gets damaged. I mean, but they're just like, boop, how many putting in? The whole box. And I'm just going and going. I was like,
I was just rather amazed they were even able to bring her back at all, because one, she had a crap ton of pills in her body. Yeah, she threw up, but still, she was about to OD on them pills. Then they drowned her ass. Then they freaking rolled out with the EpiPens. I'm like, you're lucky she didn't come back drool and then a complete vegetable, to be honest.
So I was very impressed with that. And again, I did like the fact that they didn't resolve anything. Like they literally, at the end, Dina and Sam go to the sheriff's place. They blame everything on Kate and Simon. They make them the scapegoats. They're like, oh, the two kids just flipped out and killed all their friends and killed the people at the hospital, because they were at one point, Sam was in the hospital after the wreck, and of course the first killer was going to kill her. I think it was the Martin P. Franklin, but I'm not sure. But somebody came to kill her first and was killing all the medicals.
Skull Mask.
It was Skull Mask. Okay, yeah. So they were getting away from Skull Mask, but at the end of the movie, everything got blamed on Kate and Simon. And then you see them at home, and they're like, all lovey-dovey. And then Dina gets a phone call from the woman who she tried to call, who we next meet in 1978, but it's Ziggy, or Christine Berman, who's calling her. Berman. And so she's like, I called you. She's like, I just want to let you know it's never over. I survived, but it's never over. And then next thing you know, Sam stabs Dina. So you're thinking, oh crap, Dina's dead. But nope, because Dina is the chick that's not going to die. She is one of the final girls. So she's like, not AKA, today.
She's got plot armor.
But I'm going to say this, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this one, Joe. So she literally got stabbed. This was not a joke. There was no padding. She got stabbed.
She got stabbed.
She was stabbed. That girl did not go to the hospital. She did not get stitched up. She put her girlfriend in the trunk of the car. She tied her up, went and got Josh, and then they put her in the trunk and showed up at it's Christine Berman's house. And she's like, I need your help. And then, that's pretty much the end of the movie. Then we jump into 1978, which starts off with a little bit of 1994, because of course Christine has to tell her story. But I'm still looking. I'm looking, guys. I'm like, she still isn't bleeding out, and she still hasn't gone to the hospital. I'm like, what? I'm like, how is this possible? But
she put some duct tape on there. I don't know.
I guess so. It's like, oh well, we don't need to stitch her up. So I'm like, all right. You guys know I was going to find things to nitpick. So then we start getting into Ziggy, or Christine Berman's backstory, which happens at their camp in 1978, which is pretty much
Stranger Things.
Yep, which basically becomes, to be fair, Camp Crystal Lake and Friday the 13th. That's one of the things, and plus Camp Sleepaway. There's a lot of elements to this. So, but basically, again, we have more of the shady side, hate the Sunnyvale and vice versa trope. We have a nurse, and she seemed crazy, but she actually is not crazy. Her daughter was Ruby Lane. And Ruby Lane, so the nurse's name is Mary Lane, and Ruby Lane is one of the killers that we saw in the first movie. We see her in the second and the third. She sings, she's like, we always hurt the ones we love. I'm like, oh, nope. You need to sing something else, lady. I'm like, but that's how you know she's coming. But before then, she had been a very sweet girl, and the mother was like, something happened and she didn't know what it was. And so it was very interesting to me that the mother got a job at the camp, but she was still trying to investigate exactly what happened in the movie, and basically to her daughter in the movie. And so she, I guess, gets this evidence, and she finds I think she found the cave with the rock with the names on it, and she saw the last name was actually Cindy Berman, who is Ziggy's sister, who's she's kind of like a goody two shoes, but she's also from Shady Side, but she's doing everything she can to get out. And she's played by Emily Rudd. So Sadie Sink from Stranger Things plays Ziggy, and Emily Rudd plays Cindy. And so Cindy, her boyfriend, who I think was Tommy, right? Tommy Slater was his name. Yep. And he was the Nightwing killer, basically, in the movies. He is just a normal guy. And then the nurse, Miss Mary, just walks in and she's like, basically, I'm going to have to kill you. I'm like, because I have to kill you. And I kept thinking, after knowing why she was doing it, if they had just let her do that, but I guess it wouldn't have mattered. He would have come back anyway and still finished the job. But she knew he was the next one to snap and turn into a killer. And I'm pretty sure she saw her daughter's name on that rock too. So she tries to kill him, and they're able to, I think Cindy hit her and knocked her out. And then she gets taken away by the police, probably put into a mental ward. And then that means the only person that could potentially help them is no longer there. And so now they have to deal with Tommy slowly changing into a psychopath. And it gets real very quickly. It's like you see it coming. Like there's a lot of bullying.
You definitely see it coming. But one thing I will give the first movie over the second movie, I'm still saying I still kind of like the second movie a little better, but the first movie got into the action a little bit quicker. The second movie in the beginning, it's a little more slow paced.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different things that are happening simultaneously. Like you do have the build up of Tommy, but then you also have this. Yeah, more of this. You could see more of the Sunnyvale versus Shadyside, hatred. Because there's a character. What was her name? Was it Alice or Sheila? I keep getting them mixed up. There's one girl who's just horrible. Like in the beginning of it, you see them. They have Ziggy, like her. She's tied up in this tree, and like she burns her with a cigarette.
Oh, that bitch!
Or lighter. Was her? I think her name was Al. She was either Alice or Sheila, because one of them was Sheila. If you guys know, let me know in the comments.
Yeah.
One had short blonde hair.
I can't remember all the characters.
I can't remember names, but I think okay. So mercenary said, I noticed that Sheila didn't die, so more than likely it was Sheila. So Sheila is pretty much a bully, and she gets locked into this cabin, and she has like bugs and stuff on her. I think that's what saved her life, is they locked her in there. And honestly, he probably didn't notice her, but yeah, kids.
Yeah, in this character number 2 that probably should have died.
Yeah, she should have been. It seems like the ones that probably should have been on the list were not. But they like literally Tommy, when he started killing people, he was just cleaning the house. He was just going from cabin to cabin. He's this sweet little guy with glasses, very, very nerdy. He was being bullied. He got it.
I felt so bad for that guy. I'm like,
me too.
He was just trying to play the game. Come on.
Yeah, they were playing a game where they were like, I think it was like capture the flag or capture the team. Or
capture the flag, yeah.
Yeah, and he got it. And I was like, why are all the cool little kids getting it? I was just a bull crap. The whole thing with Cindy and Alice, they found a way. Well, basically, I think they fell in this little area. They went in with Tommy, and he snapped and he killed Alice's boyfriend. I forgot his name. But he was also, they were both getting high. So, and her boyfriend got cut down by Tommy. So of course, Alice and Cindy like clear out. And Tommy was just like, he was like, I'm having fun. I mean, he's like, I'm going to kill everybody here. He literally became, to me, he reminded me more of Jason Voorhees' mother in the first movie than Jason Voorhees. Because Jason Voorhees was like, he was emotionalist and all that. But he was just like, I'm going to kill everyone I feel like killing. But she was more methodical with it. And he actually was more methodical too. Like people hiding under tables and stuff and him standing there. He reminded me a lot about how the killer was in the first Friday the 13th movie, which was the most.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost say, pre-zombie Jason. If you had to compare him to Jason, he was.
Yeah, Jason's always been like a zombie.
Part 2 with the burlap sack and whatnot.
Yeah, but so the key things that happen in this one, though, that are spoilerish, is we got a little bit more information, but the kids unfortunately had things incorrectly. Like they found, the tomb. They found a book that had a map of the old town of Shadyside, how Shadyside used to look before they built the camp, and they brought, they pretty much modernized the town. So they were able to like use the map printed there to try and get out of the caves they were stuck in, because of course they couldn't go back, and they were kind of caved in a little bit, and they also didn't want to run back into with Tommy or run back into Tommy. So they were using this map to try and get out. And I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, this is going to be a problem. And then you found this like, I don't know if you've ever watched, what is it, Teenage Tattooed Alien Fighters from Outer Space, but that crap at the bottom of the cave looked like the gunk that gave them their powers. And I was like, ugh.
Oh, no, that entire time, I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, tetanus shots.
I was like, I can't handle this emotionally. It's effing gross. It was
and just for context, it's the bottom of the outhouse.
It is. It's like poop and snot mixed together and moving alive. It's just
you
gross.
Just see it dripping down, this toilet paper strewn about, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, you're touching it, you're touching it, you're touching it, you're touching it.
You're touching it, and it's creeping me the hell out. I was looking at like, and this is not the first time we've seen this. We're gonna see it again in 1666, and I literally was disgusted, and I was even more disgusted when Alice I don't know if she accidentally touched it. I think she was drawn to it, but she put her hand on it. And so when you put your hand on it, then you get an acid trip. Like you literally start seeing people as monsters. She looked at Cindy and was like, "Oh hell no," you know. And so it was an experience, and that was another clue that somehow all this stuff was connected, and somehow it was all to do with this freaking blob of crap.
Oh yeah, like
alien fighters. Tattooed alien fighters, our teenage alien fighters were pretty much, that's what that stuff looked like. It looked like their mentor. It was disgusting. So
rejected Krang.
Oh god, yes, it was horrible. No, Krang looked good compared to this crap. This was crap. Like, it was disgusting. So if you haven't seen that, Joe, I'm gonna have to find an episode so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. It is.
I've seen that show. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just horrible, but it's horrible. But it's like that thing you have to watch, like Night Flight. You just can't not watch it. Anyway, so that's what happened. That what was happening with Cindy and Alice. They were trying to get out of the hole with the goop, and then at the same time, Ziggy has bonded with Nick Good, who is actually from 1994. He's an adult. He becomes a sheriff in the 90s. So we learn from Nick that he has a family that has expectations. You know, he's from Sunnyvale already. So his family is basically they're a long line of prosperous people, and that should have been our clue right there that something was wrong. Plus his last name was Good. In a horror movie, something's wrong with you. But so Nick was very smitten with Ziggy. And so even though technically speaking, we didn't know this yet at the time, somebody went down there and wrote Tommy's name on that wall. We didn't realize who it was until 1666, or basically 1994 part 2 of 1666. But this is the key in that something is a little bit odd with Nick, because Nick would say things that later on the characters, especially in the third movie, would think back, or at least Ziggy would think back and think that was really weird. So one of the things that he said that kind of stood out was, there's a lot of people dying, but I won't let anything happen to you. I won't let you be one of the ones that dies. And he's like, I won't let you. Not, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to get you away from these killers. No, I will prevent this from happening to you, is basically what he said. And I thought that was very telling in a way. But again, at that point, even though I'm really good at detective stories, I watch a lot of things like Midsummer Murders, so I solve crimes every week on my television. I did not suspect him hardcore then. I did think it was odd verbiage, but I did not suspect that he still had anything to do with this yet. At this point, we're still thinking this is the curse of Sarah Fear. So basically, what ends up happening is they get a bus. Some of the kids get away on the bus, which is good, I guess.
Well, except for the people we wanted to die.
Yeah.
Like, especially was it Sheila, and then that dude who seems to have some kind of roid problem. I don't know. Testosterone.
Something was wrong with them. There's something wrong. But that's how they are with these camp movies. They're always campers that have interesting personalities. But no, I thought it was interesting that and I will say this also for me was pretty hardcore. So the two sisters reunite, and of course Cindy at the time, if you watch the movie, then you know that Cindy and Ziggy kind of got into it a lot, because Ziggy she's shady side, and her sister was pretending to be more like a Sunnyvale person. Yes. And they didn't get along, but they were able to basically be there for each other. Ziggy and Cindy were defending each other. They came up with a plan with Alice's advice. We just need to find Sarah's hand and her body and reunite it. Well, where's her body? Oh, it's buried under that tree. Let's go get the tree. Now, the tree is also in the middle of the mall. It's Sunnyvale Mall in this movie, which I don't know reasons. And then, but they decide it's a good idea to go get, this body, or Sarah's body, from under the tree. Well, when they're about to go, Tommy shows up and slices the hell out of Alice. And I was like, I knew she was going to die. I don't know why. We can't have 3 final girls. And then I knew you were going to die. There's 3 too many. And then, so that leaves the 2 sisters. Well, they start running. And when they get to the tree, of course, the one they're after has blood on them. So of course it's one of the sisters. So they're coming for them. And they're digging and they're digging and they're digging, and they find this box, but there's no body. What they didn't realize, what we found out in 1666, is that the friends moved the body. but we'll get to that too in a second. All right. So long story short, though, all of the little killers come and they start slicing the crap. Like they're like Cindy, poor Cindy, she was getting hit with an axe over and over and over. And Ziggy was getting stabbed over and over and over until her heart stopped. And then they all went away because, like in the first movie, if your heart stops, then the killers feel like they succeeded and they just disappear. But Ziggy was clinging to life. And of course, here comes Mr. Nick Good. And let's be real, the only reason she survived is because of Nick, and Nick liked her because she probably would have been dead on that ground too.
Which I do gotta ask did he use some kind of dark magic to make sure she didn't die? Because
I think that's where he went. Remember, he ran off to get help, but we didn't see where he went.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there looking at him. He's like giving her CPR, and I'm like, bro, she got stabbed like 36,000 times. I'm
but
sure
he
got a punctures in her lungs or spleen. Oh,
she should have been
maybe a ruptured appendix.
Yeah, he did something to make all of her wounds heal. So yeah, he saved her. He absolutely saved her. And the sister just was butchered. She was butchered, and they were still talking to each other while they were getting stabbed, and she was getting clippered to the freaking. I was like, oh, like that was a hard scene to watch. Those two sisters getting chopped up.
Yeah, hey, I gotta say that's got to be a high pain threshold though to keep talking through all of that. Because I'd probably just be like,
like, look, you know my joke about me being a minority, guys. I wouldn't even be there. I'm like, you want me to go to camp? No. I'm like,
oh yeah, no, just that one scene from Scary Movie. Report live on Black TV. White folks never get the fuck out of here.
Hell no. And look. Let me explain how this works, Joe. Let me let you into the club for a second. I've seen Friday the 13th. It only took one movie for me. All of the kids in Friday the 13th kept getting sent to that camp every damn year. Their parents didn't love them. No, I learned. No. So if my parents said, hey, you want to go to camp? I'm like, what did I do wrong? No. I'm like, no, that's not. My opinion of what happened at camp was formed early on through Friday the 13th and Sleep Camp Away and all of these other, Camp Sleep Away and all of these other horror camp movies. Yeah. So no, that's not how that would happen. So I would not be in danger. Like, no.
Because you wouldn't be there in the first place.
I wouldn't be there in the first damn place. I'm not working at the mall. Look. If there's not multiple armed guards that I see in front of my store when I'm closing and they're going to escort me to my car, guess what's not happening? We're not working night shift at the mall. I'm like, no, sir. That is not how this goes. So Maria's story. And I love horror movies, but I'm just not going to be in them.
Hey, but look at the bright side when it came to Friday the 13th. Eventually, they moved the camp to the other side of the lake.
Because that was dumb, too.
Much safer. They were Camp Green Lane at that point.
We're going to have to do a whole video section on we're going to have to do a collab video on how messed up Friday the 13th was and how parents didn't love their children. So let's move on. So at the end of the movie, of course, Ziggy's like, we never found the body, but we found the hand. And Dina's like, we got the bones of the body. Oh, we can do this. So we're going to take him to where, she was killed and put them together and she can rest in peace and they're going to leave us the H alone. Well, it's not exactly how it goes down.
Not that easy, though. Not that
easy. They go there and Dina puts the hand on the body. Then she starts having a flashback or some crap. And next thing you know, she starts living her days as Sarah Fear in her body. And then we're into 1666. So it's technically not her living in her body, but we're just experiencing Sarah Fear through Dina. And so Dina is basically Sarah with a younger brother named Josh. They have a really gross scene with a pig giving birth. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm like, that's all I'm going to say about that. And then, so everybody in the town is pretty much Puritan. I mean, they're like Puritans. They're like I couldn't tell.
1800s. You could say it's right about that time.
I mean, it was kind of like a Puritan, pre-Amish, colonial. They're back in the days where they still think that the land is basically going to fertilize through the will of God. And if you don't believe that, you're evil. They had some holy characters who also, as Joe pointed out, should have been killed. There are 2 guys specifically that should have been immediately cut up because they cause a lot of problems in this. And what I haven't really dwelled on is the fact that, of course, I did say that Dina and Sam were in a relationship. Well, Sarah Fear was also in love with a girl named Hannah and vice versa. And Hannah actually looked like Sam. Now, I don't think she looked like Sam, actually. I just think that's
I'm pretty sure they're just using the same characters as stand-ins, which to a degree, about when it came to that part of the movie, I'm like, I mean, I guess it's kind of okay, but does create questions because outside of like, say, the Good Family, where having the same character portray, that guy, Solomon, kind of makes sense. They also already had an actress for Sarah Fear, so I was just kind of like,
I think we were seeing it through Sarah, but Dina had to see it.
We were experiencing it through Dina's perspective. She was imagining herself as Sarah, and they were doing these like little flashes sometimes where you get to see the real Sarah, but to a degree, I'm also just kind of like, I kind of wanted them to use a different cast at that point to a degree.
And then it was kind of
it did create some questions where I'm like, well, I'm sitting there thinking, well, are any of these characters related to any of the current day characters? We don't really know. And then it's like the situation that Sarah and Hannah are in is almost, an exact mirror of what's gone on between Dina and Sam, just in the modern context.
But it did make sense.
You wonder, is there any kind of link between these characters at all in terms of lineage? But the film doesn't really explain it except for, say, Solomon Good.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I saw it as, I guess we were seeing it, and the only way that Dina could comprehend it is through people that she knew. I mean, it would have been kind of cool to see her walking around and witnessing it all, like her not really being there, but her seeing everything that happened to Sarah as like a third party, observer. I think that would be really cool.
I think that would have been a good take, for sure. So.
Yeah, and I was like, and I thought it was interesting too, because like Sarah, like her dad seemed so cool, but then you were just like, wow, it really does show you how quickly your family members can turn on you when they think you're possessed or the devil. And her only crime was she got caught, technically. And then I don't even think they got caught. They didn't really get caught. I think Hannah's mother suspected something was going on with her and Dina, and that Dina was a bad influence.
They were seen.
They were seen by Solomon. We thought it was by the other guy.
The other guy did eventually see them, though, and that's how they got started spreading around.
I thought it was because I remember them going back.
Solomon saw them first. But didn't say anything. He ran. And then they got back to the town. They were outside of, I think it was Hannah's house. And then homeboy Tommy with really bad teeth saw them.
Oh, he was horrible.
And then by the time Sarah woke up, homie had started spreading it all over town. Like, look what I saw. Look at all this bad stuff going on. Someone brought the devil in. Yeah, I wonder who it is.
Yeah, and as a queer woman, I was like, that sex scene that Solomon witnessed, it was only like 10 seconds long. That's not real life. I'm like, it was 10 seconds long. It was 10 seconds. I'm like, it was fine. I'm like, fine. but no, I did like the fact that there's 2 things that I did like. I did like that we didn't realize it was Solomon at first, because we saw there was the widowed lady who lived like all alone, like a kind of like shack, or like, it wasn't the shack, it was like a shack tennis area or whatever. And I don't know why they didn't hang her as a witch. Like, nobody suspected this woman immediately because she's got bones on the walls. She looked like she was practicing witchcraft. And
she even had the freaking book. She had the book.
And I'm like, why didn't you come and get her? Like, immediately. If you're like, who's the witch in the village? That woman. I'm like, nope, it's Sarah.
Well, I guess that's the context, though. She didn't turn any dudes down for a little behind the tree.
Is that what it was? Oh my God.
Well, I mean, when the one dude rolled up, when they're sitting there, like, Solomon's all like, "Come on, guys, you ain't got no proof. You ain't got no proof." And One dude who got turned down at the party was all like, no, I got proof. She bewitched me with her witchiness and
she was
stuff
naked,
and,
yeah.
And made my pee-pee hard.
Oh, and I choked it up. So basically, and this is literally 1666 is such an interesting concept because honestly, with the Salem witch trials, this stuff really happened. They did start persecuting women, especially for being witches, for stupid stuff back then. But
you just make a freaking flower grow with some water and seeds. It's all like, nobody else can do that.
Like, you brought a watermelon
bloom
in your garden and not mine. You're a witch. But yeah, it was really messed up. But basically, the kids in this were just regular kids. They broke into the widow lady's place to get these berries to make them high. I'm like, because they were going to go have fun with the fruit of the land, and that was the fruit of the land. So yeah, these kids were going to party and make out and have an orgy. That's basically what they were doing. And like real Puritans. And before they left, Sarah then of course found this book, and it was called The Exchange. So basically it's you're selling your soul to the devil. That's what that depicted. And of course the widow catches and she's like, get out of here. She said some kind of weird message and tells her to get out. And then that's when they go off to the party. And of course, Bad Teeth Tommy starts grabbing on Hannah and starts taking her belt off and trying to get her to go have sex. And of course, Sarah kind of comes up to him and helps fight him off and insults him and calls his wee-wee, his pee-pee tiny. And then he got into his feelings and ran off. And then, of course, Sarah and Hannah went further in the woods to have their 30 seconds of sex. And then, of course, they hear a noise.
30 seconds, but it didn't even really last that long.
No, that's not how that works. I'm like,
I'm just like, yo, come on.
Her bending down took longer than the sex act. I'm like, so I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So then they ran back I think they went home. They didn't go back to the campsite. They went home. And then they kissed. And of course, I think you're right. I think that's where Bad Teeth Tommy did see him. And then
Bad Teeth Tommy called him.
So the next morning, Sarah wakes up. Now, when she woke up the next morning, I thought that was it. I think, oh hell, they're gonna hang her today. Like everyone's like, oh, she's a witch. I didn't think they gave you like a time frame, but he was spreading rumors, but nobody started taking it seriously until stuff started happening in their village or town, whatever. Like the water got blocked and there was like a plague. And then the priest, he like flips out. And when I say he flips out, I mean, he literally takes Sarah's brother, one of their other friends' sister.
Just say all the kids in the village.
It was almost all the kids in the village. And he gouged their eyes out. He gouged his own eyes out. And he was literally having a church sermon. And that's when things started hitting the fan. And they blamed both Sarah and Hannah and said that they were the ones that brought it. Because, of course, Tommy was like, oh, yeah, it was them. And at first, Solomon, he was kind of like, oh, no. It's not him. It's not them. They're not witches. This is crazy. And
it's like to yourselves kind of deal. It's like.
Yeah. But to be
you ain't got no poop.
To be fair, he was also in love with Sarah. And they had a very big age difference from what I could tell. And I thought it was very interesting that at first it's kind of like the Ziggy and Nick Good situation where he was just gonna sell his soul to the devil, get everything he wants, be damned everybody else, but I'll keep you, Sarah, because I love you. And that he was going to save Sarah and let Hannah die and take the blame. That's literally what he was gonna do. Yeah. But Sarah, after they had chained Hannah, they didn't find Sarah. She went in and she said, I'm going to go make a devil. She was going to go make a deal with the devil to save her. But he just beat her to it because the book was gone and he slit the widow's throat. And that's when we realized, something's going on. Somebody else is bad. And that's when I put 2 and 2 together. It had to be Solomon because, Bad Teeth Tommy wasn't that bright. So, she goes. Yeah,
I think for me, it was the minute she told him what was up and he's like, did you tell anyone else about this?
Does anyone know you're here? I'm like, everybody. I put it on.
Anyone? Should I lock you in the basement while I'm looking for you?
Yeah, we've been tweeting with logs, but But no, so they went into the house, or she went in the house, and then she finds this door. And she goes to this door, and the door turns out to be pretty much an entranceway to the area where he makes he made the sacrifice of making the deal with the devil. And you see, like, I think it was a goat's head, which is kind of, was it a goat or a pig's head? It might have been a baby pig's head.
Well, he had a goat's head, but then there was also the pig, which I assume was the baby pig that she brought to him earlier.
So messed up. So messed up. Anyway, yeah,
poor pig. He didn't deserve it.
Did not deserve that. And so, not saying the goat did. Sorry, we're not playing favorites. But so basically, she went down and saw the book, and then she saw a name on the wall, and she's like, "Huh, it's you," you know. And this is where it starts getting gross. This was also gross for me. We see how she lost her hand. You want to talk about that, Joe?
Oh, we have to talk about how she lost her hand, because I mean, up to the point here, you know, up till this reveal, we came to understand that she cut her own hand off because that was the price she had to pay to make a deal with the devil. You know, but you know, Solomon, good, you know, some bitch got to keep his hand. What's up? And so, of course, she's at the point where she finds out it's him. And it's all like, you know, he's all like, so here's the deal. You can join me, you know, because that's how it goes. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I mean, she was gonna make a deal with the devil anyway, so it's kind of like, you know, hey, did you save my girlfriend? Cool. Well, I'll just live here or whatever. Freaking rotate every once in a while. You know how it is. But suddenly she ain't on board with this because she's like, oh, maybe if I can get back to the village and tell everyone he did it, which, you know, I mean, who the fuck's gonna believe her anyway? But whatever. She's against it. She's all like, yep. They say, I'm gonna fight you. I'm gonna fight you guys. Square up, square up. And, you know, she stabs him. And then, you know, so he starts chasing her, like, you know, through through the tunnels and all that, and they end up back where the Porta John's gonna be in a couple hundred years. And I'm just like, okay, it's cleaner this time. I can deal with it. It's not quite as disgusting.
Well, it doesn't have all the goop yet. There's a little bit of the goop, but not the whole thing.
Here's just now it's just a regular part of a cavern. So I was like, all right, this is acceptable. But then he goes to stab her, and she like puts her hand up, and the knife goes right through her wrist, and you just see her. Like, this is actually some good makeup work, you know, where you just see her hand just go like,
yeah, and it
just splits open, and then he's got her pinned down, and she pulls it, and her hand rips off, and I'm like, that is amazing.
And she was badass too. She ripped off a piece of her dress or something. She like wrapped
she
it up and then kept crawling, and I'm like,
I'm actually shocked. I am actually surprised she did not succumb to shock first.
Or bleed out. Yeah, I'm kind of.
But then again, you know, we got to get her to that tree. So, you know, we got to get this girl a little plot armor. She's got to make it at least somewhat up, you know. But she's pretty jacked up at this point. But yeah, she rolls her hand up. She finds a way back up to the surface, and she's underneath. It turns out she's underneath the church. And this is one of the scenes that kind of gets mirrored throughout the entire trilogy to a degree, you know, where it's somebody on their back and they're trying to kick up. You know, so because like a lot of these movies have repeating elements throughout this entire trilogy, which I actually really like that, how there's just a lot of these, you know, repeating elements. You know, things like, of course, like the bodies being laid out between 1666 and 1978, and just things like that. And I really like those echoes. So then, of course, we get to the point. She gets up. She's back out in the town, and everybody sees her and is like, all right, we gonna hang you now. You know?
Well, and then he hits her, though. Didn't he hit her in the...
Yeah, he knocks her out. And, like, I got the witch, you know?
Yeah.
Don't listen to anything she says. She's going to lie, you know? And then they get her up on the tree, and her last act is, all right, if I can't save myself, I got to at least try to save this girl.
So let me say something to that right there. Here's my another nitpick. You ready?
Go for it.
Why didn't she say, oh, yeah, go look in his basement in the secret door?
I mean, at that point, the entire town was so crazed, I don't think they would have believed it anyway.
then she should have thrown something in and been like, hey, not only is there people in there, he's also got naked women. And then the guy, at least, messed up teeth Tommy would have been like, naked women? Oh, I have to go see for what is in that basement. And then he goes running and everybody goes with him. They're naked people in the basement. And he tries to kill them. And he's worships the devil. Go down and look in the basement because he can't move the stone. He can't move the sacrifice stuff. The book has to stay there. So they'd have to believe it, that it would be underneath that house. So she could at least make an argument. She didn't even try. So
yeah, I mean, I guess she just kind of felt like she was damned at this point. The town was going to hang her regardless. It's like,
choose life, girl. Choose life.
It is what it is. Plus, unfortunately, we got to make the other movies happen.
I'm looking at your comments, guy. I like how Boo Boo's because they wasn't listening to Sarah. Yeah, that's why you got to give them something to listen to. That's what my mama says. Get their attention through something they will listen to. So I throw in some naked women. Do something. Save your life.
Or it could have just gone like, all right, I'm going to curse the lands, and the curse is going to last until you can bring my hand back to me. By the way, it's located right under Homeboy's house. If you could just go retrieve that, that'd be great. Find my hand, put it on some ice. Maybe we can stitch it back on later.
I'm cursing all of your wee wees. They will all fall off by sun tomorrow if you do not go look under his house.
That would be great if you found out all of Sunnyvale suffered from small dick syndrome.
They probably do. But yeah, so then we get to the point where they're getting ready to hang her and she's with Hannah. And so she takes the full blame so that Hannah can live.
Yep. She's just like, I put a spell on her. She didn't know what she was doing. So,
yep.
I guess it worked. They take her down. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah, whatever.
Well, what's so messed up to me is that it kind of was reminiscent of what Dina was doing for Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So she was sacrificing and willing to die to save her girlfriend, just like Mary did the same thing. Which is very refreshing because honestly, they never really have the queer characters never really survived the horror movies. So I'm really excited that we had two main characters that were final girls. I'm like, they're trying. They're doing stuff CW didn't do. Anyway,
yeah, and they do it better because I will say that is one thing that I actually really enjoyed about this movie was the relationship between Dina and Sam.
Yeah.
It was played fairly straight. It wasn't propped up as like
see what you did there was played fairly straight.
Okay, yeah. But you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
It's not propped up as like the greatest thing of all time. And it's just like it's normal.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It's believable. And it works.
I was pleasantly surprised they pulled it off with not one couple but two, which I thought was pretty interesting, even though technically they were played by the same women.
Hey, got the chemistry though. They got that chemistry,
But yeah, so then we see after she's hung, her friends did not believe it. Any of her friends, they didn't believe it. And they dug her up and they buried her somewhere else and they marked her grave. And that's why no one in the other movies in the future could find the actual body because they moved it.
Yeah, they gave her a proper burial.
It did make me wonder how Solomon furthered his bloodline because his wife and child had died, and who would want to marry him from that town? So
I mean,
they were so desperate, didn't they? Like try and get the father was like trying to pawn Sarah off on him,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's quite possible that after everything that happened with like Hannah and stuff, that their mom would want to get rid of her, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't think Hannah would have married him because he was the one that, found her, knocked her out, and called her girlfriend or Sarah basically a witch. So I don't think that Hannah. But now I can't say that didn't happen to one of the other girls.
It's quite possible,
Yeah.
Any one of those girls in the town could have like shacked up with him or whatever. Maybe he forwarded his bloodline through unconventional means.
Puritan Day Tinder. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Just go full on caveman, just knock a chick out and chain her up in your basement. Like, I'll let you go in 9 months.
I mean, why not? Then people in the town were idiots. All right. So then we get back to the second part of 1994. So Dina's like, oh my gosh, I know who that was really going on. It's not Sarah. It's good.
Good
Good
is evil.
Good is evil. I was like, this is gold.
That is probably the hammiest line in the entire trilogy, but I'm like, all right, you pulled it off.
Yeah. Now there is a cool character named Martin. Martin was in 1994 Part 1. He works at the mall. He was in jail for tagging his own business. And and the sheriff was arresting him. I do hear the echo, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening because it doesn't happen when I do my solo ones. It's really weird. But anyway, so long story short, I thought this was just going to be a cameo character, but he turned out to be very instrumental in part 2. So in part 1 of 1994, he's in the jail. You know, he meets the kids when they're at the jail. You know, he's trying to get out of jail because he really didn't do it. He didn't spray paint or tag anything. Actually, it was Sheriff Good that did it to make it look like it was him. And he was just holding it there. And I'm like, it was not lost on me in this movie. And I don't know if they were trying to do this, but the black man was in jail for something he didn't do. And in the movie, when Kate was selling drugs, she had 2 little black girls that she was babysitting that she was having bag the drugs up. I'm like, that's kind of stereotyping. But then again, it was the 90s, so that's what they did. So maybe that's what they were going for. But long story short, part 2 of 1994, so basically Dina bled. So she had blood. So of course they're coming for her because it was her blood at the site on the bones, whatever. So then the killers were tracking her. So they decide to go to the mall where we for the very first killing at the beginning of this trilogy to try to come up. They're coming up with this elaborate plan to basically kill Good because they have to kill Good because now they know that it's his family that has sold their souls to the devil to be prosperous. And the only problem is Ziggy didn't know at first that Good was evil. So she called Good for help. So she's already kind of let him know that they know some stuff. So they come up with this, of course, plan that like they set up these traps for all the killers. They're going to lock them behind the gates at the mall because, you know, that's what you do. I will say I'm really shocked, though, that the bookstore's gate still wasn't fixed after those murders. It's like, really? I'm like, the gate closed and stops like midway so you have enough room to slide under. I'm like, are you effing kidding me right now? They learned nothing at this mall. Security sucks.
I don't know. I did like the callback, though. You know, I mean, it was only like what, the next day or?
I don't know. I think it was no. It was like a week, wasn't it?
Was it a week?
I thought it was a week. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because remember at the school they had like all the goodbye thing. Because one of the people had gone to that school, was a graduate of that school. I think both of them were graduates of that school. And so they were doing like the little, you know, the things they do with tribute whenever somebody's, you know, slain or killed or died at school. So yeah, I think it was a week. I don't think it was a couple of days. I think it was a week since then.
I thought it was like
I mean, it could have been. Who knows? Time is linear film. Like it has no real concept in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're dealing with basically like time travel storytelling.
Yeah, we went back and forth so many times. I have no idea anymore. It could. You might be right. It might have been 24 hours. If this was 24 hours, that was a long ass 24 hours. But all right, so they're at the mall trying to set up their trap, trying to get Nick to come. Of course, the killers are coming. You know, Dina cut her hand, put some blood in a bucket, and you know they put him in these like water soakers to spray it around to kind of distract the killers by spraying it on things and
glow paint.
Yeah, and putting that neon glow paint was cool actually. To lure Nick there, and while Dina was off trying to save her girlfriend and herself and kill Nick and try and figure out, you know, basically how to get to the source of everything. Her girlfriend, Sam, who has been possessed since the first 1994 because her name's written on the wall. She's trying to kill Dina too. She breaks free. I don't know how she broke free, but she broke free. So her crazy butt's running down this little area too. It just happens to be the same exact spot in the camp, right? I'm pretty sure that was the same underground tunnels. Because and I guess Anita, was the mall built on top of the campsite? Because the tree was there. So the tree was there. So that had to have been the same connected. So they went down this like hallway that looks like it leads to maintenance, and then she ended up going down to the tunnels. And she does find the book. Of course, she also finds Nick, and they struggle. And he stabs the hell out of her. And we're thinking this girl's already been stabbed once. I mean, she survives. So I was thinking that I'm like stabbing her doesn't work on Dina because Dina, can take a stab and doesn't need stitches. So, but he was stabbing her, and then she did the one cool thing that I thought she was gonna stab him and they're gonna struggle with a knife. She took his hand and put it on the blob, and then he started seeing crazy stuff. And then she ended up stabbing him through the eye socket, and I was like,
yeah. But I actually really like that scene because not only was he seeing all the victims of everybody that his family had ever, whatever, all that fun stuff. But the last thing he saw, even though it was Dina stabbing him, to him, he thought it was Sarah Fear stabbing him.
Yeah, which was very cool. Yeah, I did like
that. That was dope.
That was pretty cool.
And it really did echo what she said. I will follow you until you're dead.
Yep. And who knows? I mean, technically, maybe Dina and them will learn that they are related to her. I mean, how will we know? We never saw their parent or their father. Their father was never home, like ever. Like we saw beer bottles and cigarette butts, but we never saw their actual parent.
Yeah, which I thought was really weird because especially with the way the dad character went in 1666, I was sitting there thinking like, I think there may have been a deleted scene where that was supposed to be the same actor.
I mean, it could have been.
But it followed a very similar line, because, he ended up becoming a drunkard. Much like their dad was a drunkard. So there was, there are the parallels there that tells me that, there's probably some deleted scenes involving that guy in 1994 as the dad.
Yeah, well, and then I thought it was interesting too that there's just little things that happened in this. So after so they knocked Sam out, or Dina knocked Sam out when she tried to kill her, before she could get to Nick. And I was thinking, okay, now not only should her brain have damage, it should have even more damage because she hit her head on that rock. But again, Sam's head is supernatural, and you can't stab Dina. And this is what I've learned. We learned that Dina took some R.L. Stine books and she patted herself with them. And so when he stabbed him, it actually went through some of the R.L. Stine books, which I thought was very good Easter egg. But this is where the problem for me, it's not a problem, it's another nitpick. So everything's back to normal. I'll get to Sunnyvale in a second. Why in the hell, if all this went down and you see the police tape, did these MFs leave that damn book in that they left the effing book right in the same effing spot it had been in 16 effing 66. Why didn't Dina say, we're taking this damn book, we're burning this damn book, and we're done with this? No, they left that effing book right there on the freaking stone. I'm like, are you kidding me? The police did not take it for evidence. The media, who I know went down there, did not take this book. Nobody took this damn book. This book is just sitting right here. Why?
Well, somebody took it because sequel bait.
Well, and then that's the thing, though. More than likely, if it was someone, it could have been somebody else in his family. But we did see in Sunnyvale, their luck started to change because we see it looked like his brother, the one that was elected mayor, went and got in his car, and as he was backing out, a truck hit him. So I'm pretty sure that was Nick's brother. The brother.
No, that wasn't the brother.
It wasn't?
No, because later on the TV they said that, the mayor denies ever knowing that his brother was a serial killer.
But was that before or after? I didn't know if that
was after before the guy got hit.
Okay.
I think that was just a scene to indicate that the whole nothing ever bad happens in Sunnyvale is done, because remember how it kind of was in 1666, where the land that the colony lived on was a lot more fruitful, but then Goods half, the one he decided to get away from, was it wasn't that great. So then he switched them. through the spell, and
So
now
that he
that the
was
spell's
prosperous.
gone,
Yeah.
it's going to flip back. So probably if you went back to Sunnyvale and Shadyside and, probably just 6 months to a year, the luck on both sides would have totally changed. They probably almost flip-flop.
Okay. I don't know why that guy looks so much like the actor in the picture that played the mayor. That's why I got confused, because he looked like him, the dark hair, the little 90s bob.
I thought it was at first too.
Okay.
Especially with the way he was like looking at Sam and Dina as they were walking out of the house. But I guess that was just more of a like, you're not my neighbors.
Well, what's also interesting to me though is with the book being there, if the brother is still alive, obviously he knows about it. So
does he though? Because they did say they pick one good out of every generation.
I think wasn't it like the oldest boy? I thought it was the oldest boy.
I think it's just one good. I don't think they specified whether it was the oldest or the youngest. I think they just said they pick one. And it would probably be what is it? A bit of a hazard to have more than one know about it.
But then what happens if that younger boy dies in a car crash or whatever, or that chosen boy dies? Don't you need to have a backup? Because
then you would probably tap the other one, because you still have to have at least one per.
Well, maybe in the event of the death, then that other brother gets a letter saying, this is what happened in our family. This is all the stuff, and this is why we were prosperous. Now all your life is going to crap. And then that's the inspiration for him to redo the curse. Because all he has to do is exchange it, because how else would anybody else know about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, and that's part of like some of the things. Like I said, these are fun movies, but they're not perfect movies, because they definitely don't. There's definitely things that happen where it's like it's not quite clear why they happen. Like back in the first movie, when they're getting chased and stuff like that, before they crash, before Sam lands on Seraphir's body and disturbs her grave and whatnot, Dina's nose starts bleeding.
Yeah,
and it's never explained.
They never say why.
It's just like, we don't know why her nose starts bleeding. Her nose just starts bleeding.
But I mean, that's because Dina can't die. Again, she was stabbed by Sam, and nothing came of that. There was not like, no, there was nothing. It's like, you were not stabbed. And I don't know about you. If somebody takes a knife and stabs me in my side or my front part of my stomach, I'm going to feel it. And I may need to go to the hospital. No, I will need to go to the hospital. So
you will definitely need to go to the hospital.
I just don't get it. I don't get that at all. And I remember thinking, and I'm like, this girl is so badass. She just.
Yeah, no, like I said, they're not perfect movies. Obviously, there are things that are definitely overlooked, which leads me again, like especially after watching 1666, that leads me to believe there are probably some deleted scenes where maybe she was patching herself up or something of the like.
Yeah, they should have at least referenced it though for us to look at that stuff, because
I think that would have been
better.
Yeah, and
like
then
her
of course,
coming out of the bathroom saying, "Oh, I fixed the issue" or whatever. And you're like, it's like 5 seconds. But
I don't know. She could have had like a first aid kit, just took in a patch and just popped up the side. Boom. I don't know. Good to go. And then of course, so things like Dina's nosebleed, I'm like, that was never really explained. Sheriff Good went over to Ziggy's place and left her a note. It's happening again. I don't understand really why he did that.
Little Boots, who is Deanna? Are you talking about Dina?
Dina, yeah.
Dina went to the hospital when Sam was in the hospital, and then they got attacked by a skull mask. And then, because the boyfriend was there and he was standing at the little front part of the door, and skull mask just stabbed right through him. And then they started freaking out, and then they ran. And then the guy friend that Dina knew that got them, and I think Kate knew, because Kate was the one selling drugs.
Wait, hold on. I think I was saying something completely different.
No, I'm looking at a comment.
Okay.
So yeah, Dina did go to the hospital initially, and she's the one that got Sam out of the hospital, because remember, Sam's Sunnyvale boyfriend got stabbed first, because he stabbed him to get to her, and then they were running out, and then the guy that got Dina back there in the first place, because he had a thing going with Kate for, I guess, drugs or whatever. She got him in.
Nurse Betty.
Yeah, Nurse Betty. He gets stabbed. I think he got stabbed in the eye too. I can't remember. I want to say there's a lot of people stabbed in the eye socket. I don't know what.
The throat, I believe.
Yeah, but when we're talking about her not going to the hospital, it's because she should have gone when she got stabbed. Because Sam,
at the very end of 1994, part 1.
Yeah, she got stabbed.
Sam impaled her with like that wooden broken off broomstick piece or something.
Yeah, while she was on the phone with Ziggy, older Ziggy.
You know, she staked her like a vampire.
Yep, and I still to this day have no idea. I was like, how is she walking around? That's not possible. Half of my uterus is gone. I'm confused. I'm like, but that's fine.
Who knows?
All right, let's look at a few questions because we're over an hour and I don't want to stay too long. Hi, Alpha Wolf. Love the movie and the twist was great. I find that I like the plot and find the whole story really enjoyable, but the horror aspect of me was kind of decreasing as the series continued for me. I will say there are parts that were grosser than the others, like the Blob. The Blob, Camp 1978 with that Blob, I think was hard for me because again, it was so nasty. Was so nasty. So I mean, if you're asking me about horror factors, me looking at that Blob, it was absolutely disgusting. And the bread slicer in the first one in 1994, yeah, that was gold. That was gold. And the hand, I think Sarah's hand, the two sisters being repeatedly axed and stabbed simultaneously, and of course the bread slicer were the grossest parts of it for me. But in terms of horror, it accomplished its goal. There weren't many jump scares, so I will give you that. But I did have a feeling of this is a really serious, dire situation, and we need to really resolve this because these people are not playing around and they're not even alive. So, yeah, I could see that. Hi, Mercenary. I do wish we got to see who Josh was chatting with and have them help getting info with something. We did see.
We did at
the very end. Yep, the girl. When Martin was there, Martin again. And I know we kind of brushed over Martin. Martin actually helped them in part 2 of 1994, try and basically help Dina stay alive and to kill Good. And I love how gung ho he was to do it too. We're gonna kill Good. Okay. He
was pretty convinced. He was just like, yeah, why not?
Completely okay. But no, we did see the girl. So like when Martin was at the school, he was trying to sell like this huge. It was a huge. It's like portable. It's a portable music holder. It's like this big. And of course they were like, what? Well, the girl there starts talking about solid state drives, and it's like she writes her screen name down. She's like, message me sometime. And Josh looks at it. He's like, that's the chick I've been talking to in the AOL chat. So we did see her. She's the woman. I think she had the blonde pigtails. I remember.
Yeah, correctly. Like I will say, I thought she was going to factor into the plot a little bit more than she did, but
no. Yeah, it's fine.
At least we see who he finally was talking to because it did seem like something they were going to bring up.
Yeah, it was kind of cool though. It was cool.
Yeah.
The bread slicer kill was gnarly. Yes, it was.
Best kill in the entire trilogy. Down.
Scream horror movie rules being broken means certain characters have to die. That's true. That is true. I didn't know the stream would be today. Hi, Ito. Yeah,
we didn't either.
We didn't know it either. But see, he's in Japan, so like his 9 and like, isn't it like 1 o'clock or 2 p.m. there?
It's just about to hit 2 p.m.
And it's almost midnight here. So that's how our streams go when I do collaborations with our streams anyway with Joe. They are usually late at night. I really like seeing Jillian Jacobs. I'm a big Community fan. Yeah, the Community was cool. Duct tape infinite uses in one item. I mean, I think Joe said this too. She probably did. She duct taped her insides. It's just like, I'm gonna hold everything in with duct tape. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I noticed that Sheila didn't die because the bitches never do. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I think we could make our like an entire video or entire stream about all the characters that should have died.
Yeah, that's a countdown. You should do
every time I turn around. I'm just like Sheila from 78. I'm like, yep, that bitch should have died. Freaking just keeps the ball just keeps rolling down, and I'm like,
hey, if you want to do a top 10 characters that should have died in Fear Street for your channel, I will happily help you out.
Yeah, freaking Sam's stepmom, that bitch should have gotten the axe.
His stepmom was first. Tommy was clearing out the kids. Oh, you know what? Speaking of the stepmom, how she was dragging Sam out. She's like, get in the car. How did Sam get back out to go to her girlfriend's house?
Well, I mean, they said it's only like less than a 30-minute drive between the two towns.
But you would think that her stepmother would have grounded her from getting the car. So how did she get there? Like, how did she get out of the house? When my mother told me I couldn't do something, that was it. I fear for my life. It was not going to happen. So how did
probably just rolled out with, "Bitch, you ain't my mom. Suck it." I mean, and at the same time, it's like, it's a little tough to stop a high school student from doing what they want. I mean, crap. I think I lost count how many times I snuck out of the house at that age.
I got you. No kid was safe in this movie. That's
specifically 1978. It actually addressed the one thing I always felt was missing from the early Friday the 13th movies, is that kids should have been getting the axe, especially since kids in Friday the 13th caused Jason to be pushed into the lake in the first place.
Yeah. But the mother blamed it on
throughout that entire series. But here it's just like, like, how old are you? Well, doesn't fucking matter.
But Mama Voorhees always blamed the counselors because they were having sex while her baby was drowning. So he just took on the rage that his mother left. That's what that was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, watch one of them lop her mom's head off, so, and then that chick was dead in the sequel. So.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But then again, they also had Jason in space, so I just lost it all at that point. Jason X.
Hey, that was a great movie.
It was, but it's just Jason X. So like,
fantastic.
He's tackled on land, now in outer space. I'm like, I'm done. Wow, tattooed teenage alien fighters. What a throwback! I'm telling you, that was the best. Yeah. Would the hand really be skeletal after all those years?
Magic.
I mean, there's a lot of disbelief that has to be suspended in this. I actually couldn't get through any of these movies. Gore isn't my strong suit. I'm sorry, Ito. I like horror.
Really not that gory outside of a few scenes.
Yeah, it's more of a. They were going for it's basically a team scream type scenario with a few scenes that were a little above.
Yeah, well, if I had to call it anything, I would say part 1 was paying an homage to Scream. Part 2 was paying an homage to Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, that kind of thing. And part 3 was trying to be The Witch.
The Witch with a little bit of elements of The Village from M. Night Should Not Be Done. That's what I call it, M. Night. I call it M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night should not be done. That's pretty much. M.
Night should not be done.
Yeah. I thought Dina, I'm going to say Dina because it's not Dana, was seeing the people's soul, because souls can never die. They can be reborn over and over again until the cast of 1995, that maybe the souls are locked to the land.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point where I just kind of wondered, because of the echoes in the time, if there's sort of like time is just sort of happening again and again and again sort of deal.
Yeah. Well, some of the characters, like I said, it was weird, the placement of all of the characters. Like some of her friends from high school, like we saw Katie as one of her friends. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure we saw Simon in another role. So like I think they just rotated it. It's kind of like Cloud Atlas, how they would rotate a lot of them in different reincarnations. So I looked at it like that. It was a Judge Frollo situation. Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah. What about her hand? These people in 1666 had a high tolerance of pain. I don't care how tolerant your pain is. When you're ripping your hand slowly off something, my tolerance and everybody else's should go out the flipping window, because that's ain't natural.
It's like
childbirth and ripping your hand off.
There's a bit of a suspension of disbelief that has to go on, because I'm pretty sure she had died of shock.
Your body will initially, your body will cease to compensate for the blood loss too. Like she's trying to stop up the blood, but I mean, she was also crawling. If you watch Shark Attack stuff, you'll see how bad it is when you lose. A digit.
There was a bit of a missed opportunity in 1666, which I wish they would have done, which is where after her hand gets missing, she takes the torch and she cauterizes it. That'd be badass.
That would be badass. But she didn't have time because dude was chasing her.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it is. Because they weren't listening, Sarah. Well, to be fair, especially back then, they weren't listening to women anyway. I mean, it's just what it was. Never estimate
the time.
Never underestimate a death curse of like true words have not been spoken. This show was a nice surprise how it ended. Yeah.
I think it ended how I expected it to. Good guys win, bad guys die, and
Yeah.
Earth is broken, at least until whoever took the book kickstarts it again. I mean, heck, for all we know, it could be Good's brother's kid.
Yeah, I love part 2. Part good is evil. Martin is the man. Martin was cool.
The man.
Martin was cool.
Martin.
Of course, it's 1994. Everything in 1994 happens in the mall. That's true. It wasn't mall rats around that time.
Yeah.
True. That's true. Dina can take a stab, not a superhero. So, I mean, Dina can take a stab. Mary was walking around with no hand. I mean, crawling around with no hand. I mean, it's a thing. Seraphir is Dina's soul reincarnation. Did they say that, though? Because I didn't think they said it.
Yeah. Especially since when, they did, they never said that. Like I said, I think they were just presenting it in a way with just so they could use some of the same actors and stuff like that. Because Seraphir, had her own actress separate.
Yeah. And if you read the Fear Street trilogy, if you read the books, there are a bunch of different stories, but they have the Fear family. It's a family whose last name is Fear, and they all have, they have a curse. So it's interesting. Using R.L. Stine books as body armor was very creative. I agree, and R.L. Stine probably loved that moment too. That was his Stan Lee moment right there.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't care for was they took his name off the book and they put in a different name, and I'm like, why? Should have just been R.L. Stine on there.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't get him a cameo in the movie.
They should have actually. He should have been one of the killers behind the mask.
Yeah, he had one in the Goosebumps movie. So
yeah. I don't know. Regarding the book being left, maybe the producers wanted a new generation of movies.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to explain it in a way that makes sense within the context of the film's universe too. That was evidence.
Yeah,
to ritualistic killings. Something that probably the FBI would have gotten called in for because of how far the string of murders go back.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, I see the oldest boy, but wouldn't the good luck keep the oldest boy alive? Well, I mean, they don't have good luck anymore with, Nick being dead. That essentially, there's no one taking care of the blob. The big blob just went back into the earth. It's nasty where it needed to stay. It's like somebody finally flushed the toilet. They finally flushed it. After generations of not flushing, and now we've undone the clog in the drain. It's effing disgusting. So disgusting.
Pull the hair out of the drain. I like it.
Okay, and let me see. Said, glad I made it to this stream. All right, cool. So overall, good movies. We really love them. The only nitpicks I had, I've already said, was the book. Dina not going to the hospital because she was stabbed, because I still don't get that. There's so many reasons that they should have gone and got that damn book, though. There's so many. This isn't a nitpick. I just like making fun of the 30-second sex scene because it's somebody in a queer marriage. That is not how that type of sex works, and it does not take that short of a time. I'm just saying. I was like, really? That's it? I'm like, you're gonna die for that? I'm like, at least you should have had a little fun before you died. That's not how that works. But yeah, I also had a problem looking at Tommy's teeth. Bad teeth Tommy. That was pretty
rough. I was actually sitting there wondering that myself. It's 1966. Dentists don't exist yet. How are all your teeth so perfect, but he got the short end of the stick?
He looked like he never had teeth in his life. He carved him out of tree trunks. I don't know.
I get they say he was a drunkard, but
alcohol does not damage your teeth like that.
Jesus Christ, man.
Horrible. So yeah, that was nasty. All right, but that's we're almost an hour and a half. So this is our first stream. Joe has to do a Black Widow stream with me too, because again, I have not watched that movie. So we're going to schedule that one coming up. We are going to have the Motherland Fort Salem stream. My Abby Mail video is coming. It's just not done. So it'll be tomorrow before it is posted, but it should be by afternoon. Of course, we're having Arrowverse Wednesday. Unfortunately, Joe doesn't get on here, I think, late enough, but I'll have to see. We might be able to make it work because we did have a stream at 10 o'clock last week. So it might end up being, if he's available, which he might be, we might be able to get him because that'll be his Thursday. So he can pop in here for Arrowverse Wednesday because we, it's going down. And then, of course, Friday, guys, is the season finale of Charmed. And as you know, we broke the internet with Madeline Mantalk announcing she was leaving. And guys, go check out my poll. I know you don't, but go check out my poll, guys, because Twitter is blowing up and they're saying lots of interesting things. And I put them on the community tab. But yeah, if it is day for you, have a good day. If it is night for you, have a good night. And we will see you later. Bye, guys.